1970 to 1980s, the era of desktop publishing. Not many of the inventors of tech experienced the golden age of printing. However, the inventors come up with something called desktop publishing, where magic happened limitlessly till today. It allows text, graphics, animation, and pictures to be produced in a common format for publication. Nevertheless, the launch of the Apple LaserWriter printer in January 1985 marked the beginning of the desktop publishing industry's explosive growth. Hi, welcome to Astro Tracer. In today's episode, we're going to watch the story behind the Logo series. The eminent and the dominant computer software company, Adobe. Adobe Inc., formerly known as Adobe System Incorporated. This American multinational computer software company has its headquarters situated in San Jose, California. Adobe stands among the most well-known popular graphics and publishing software company in the world. Adobe has its well-known and most widely used softwares are Acrobat Pro, Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere Pro, Lightroom, InDesign, Adobe Express, Adobe Firefly, Adobe Scan, Adobe Creative Cloud, Adobe Dreamweaver, Adobe Stock, Adobe Postscript, Character Animator, Media Encoder, Adobe Fresco, Capture, and more. Adobe's yearly revenue in 2024 was $21.5 billion. So, without further ado, let's begin their story. December 1982. Adobe founded in Mountain View, California by two great gentlemen, John Edward Warnock and Charles Matthew Diskey. Warnock was born on October 6, 1940 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He was raised with his parents and two siblings, Tom and Kevin. He failed in 9th grade algebra. He called himself as a lackluster student, but he eventually broke through that and showed his ability to change from a non-student to a good student across the board before graduating from Olympus High School in 1958. He praises his graduating instructor for being an incredible educator. He also participated in sports in high school, particularly on the tennis team and the ski team. Warnock worked in a photography shop in summer holidays. That was really his first job, and he was sort of the stock boy, and he used all his summer earnings to buy cameras. Photography has always been a big part of his hobbies. After he graduated from high school, he went to college in 3 years without a break and graduated in 1961 with a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics and philosophy. Then he went on to get a master's degree in mathematics. Later, he did his PhD in computer science and electrical engineering, all from the University of Utah. Warnock is not an avid reader, but still he would love to read some non-fiction and also science fiction books. I have given few of his interested collection down in the description. He started his career at IBM on 1963 and was involved in getting training on the plug boards, card machines and tabulators with various machines way in Seattle. Later he was placed in Los Angeles to get training for the Big Machine 1794 and was involved in machine language programming for the 1790 as well. Well, that was also getting into the time of the Vietnam War. Then one day the draft came up for the Vietnam War and he did not want to go to the Vietnam War. IBM had a strict policy not to ask for deferment, even though he was working with defense-related people. He said, well, I am going back to school. So he went back to the University of Utah and was a teaching assistant for mathematics and computer programming. He wrote the university's first automated registration system. So this was sort of his job at that time. And this was happening in 1966. He was also a part of a project called the Hidden Surface Problem for Computer Graphics, which was going on at the university by ARPA. Later, Warnock worked for multiple organizations in various locations. And, on the other side, Charles Jeske was born on September 11, 1939 in Cleveland, Ohio. He attended St. Ignatius High School. Jeske graduated from Xavier University in 1962 with an AB in Classics and in 1963 with an MS in Mathematics. From 1963 to 1968, he was a mathematics professor at John Carroll University. Under William Wolf's guidance, he finished his PhD studies in computer science at Carnegie Mellon University in 1972. He was a co-author of Wolf's 1975 book, The Design of an Optimizing Compiler. Jeske started working at Xerox Palo Alto Research Center in October 1972. His first project was to build a mainframe computer. Afterward, he worked on programming languages and developed tools that were used to build the Xerox Star workstation. At Park, Jeske founded the Imaging Sciences Laboratory in 1978 and carried out research in the fields of image processing, optics, and graphics. He hired John Warnock and together they invented Interpress, a page description language for computer printing that could describe fonts as complex as typefaces. But they were unable to convince Xerox management of the commercial value of Interpress, so Park was not shown much interest on it, which eventually resulted in the inability to commercialize the Interpress. Then two of its creators, Chuck Jeske and John Warnock, left from Xerox and formed their own firm, which is Adobe Systems. So in 1982, the company was started in John Warnock's garage.
Chuck and I, when we started the company, weren't on a get-rich-quick scheme. We were frustrated at Xerox, and our major frustration is we knew we could invent great technology, but no one would ever use it. And it would never see the marketplace. And I think our major motivation in starting Adobe and continuing with Adobe was to make stuff that people would use, that lots of people would use. And I think inside of every engineer is that basic need to have your stuff used. So that was the primary motivation behind what we did.
The name Adobe came from a creed that ran behind Warnock's house in Los Altos. Marva, wife of Warnock, and a former graphic designer at Palo Alto, California in Marsh Design. She designed the iconic Adobe logo for Adobe Systems in 1982, which is still in use today. The company initially focused on developing the Postscript, a page description language for printing. At Adobe, Interpress evolved into Postscript and became an industry standard for desktop publishing. By 1987, Postscript had become the industry standard printer language, with more than 400 third-party software programs and licensing agreements with 19 printer companies. Steve Jobs attempted to buy Adobe for $5 million in 1982. But Warnock and Jeske refused. Their investors urged them to work something out with Jobs. So they agreed to sell him shares worth 19% of the company. Jobs paid a 5 times multiple of their company's valuation at the time, plus a 5-year license fee for Postscript in advance. The purchase and advance made Adobe the first company in the history of Silicon Valley to become profitable in its first year. In 1986, Adobe went into IPO, initial public offering trading, on the Nasdaq under the ticker symbol ADBE. In 1987, the launch of Adobe Illustrated for the Apple Macintosh, the first vector graphics editor software, played a crucial role in the development of digital graphics design. In 1989, Adobe introduced its flagship product, a graphics editing program for the Macintosh called Photoshop. It's one of the most iconic image editing software. It revolutionized digital image manipulation and became an industry standard. In December 1991, Adobe released Adobe Premiere, which Adobe rebranded as Adobe Premiere Pro in 2003. With this, Adobe entered the video editing market and established as a key player in the multimedia software. In 1993, Adobe Acrobat, a software for creating and managing PDF, portable document format, was introduced. It played a significant role in digital document sharing. In 1994, Adobe acquired Altus Corporation, which brought PageMaker, a popular desktop publishing software, into Adobe's product portfolio. Meanwhile, in 1992, the incident took everyone's attention. Charles Jesky kidnapped at Adobe parking lot. On the morning of May 26, 1992, as Jesky was arriving for work in Mountain View, California, he was kidnapped at gunpoint from the Adobe parking lot by two men, Mohammed Al-Bukhari, age of 26, and Jack Saya, age of 25. A spokesperson for the FBI reported that the agency had monitored phone calls that the kidnappers had made to Jesky's wife demanding a ransom. The spokesperson added that Al-Bukhari had been arrested after he had picked up the $650,000 ransom that Jesky's daughter had left at a drop-off point. An FBI agent explained that after a gentlemanly discussion, Al-Bukhari had brought them to a bungalow in Hollister, where Saya had been holding Jesky hostage. Jesky was released unhurt after being held for 4 days, although he stated that he had been chained. The two kidnappers were eventually sentenced to life terms in state prison. Several years later, subsequently Adobe acquired a large number of software companies worldwide. In 2003, Adobe transitioned to a subscription-based model with the introduction of Adobe Creative Suite. This bundled popular Adobe softwares like Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. In 2013, Adobe fully embraced the subscription model with the launch of Adobe Creative Cloud. This marked the shift away from traditional software licenses to a cloud-based subscription service. The two gentlemen, John Warnock and Charles Jesky, received multiple honors for their invention, the desktop publishing revolution, and their diligence. In 1999, Jesky was inducted as a Fellow of the Association for Computing Machinery. In 2002, he was made a Fellow of the Computer History Museum for his accomplishment in the commercialization of desktop publishing in scalable types for computer graphics and printing. In 2004, Warnock received the Lovelace Medal from the British Computer Society in London. In October 2006, Jesky, along with co-founder John Warnock, received the annual AEA Medal of Achievement, making them the first software executive to receive this award. In 2008, he received the Computer Entrepreneur Award from the IEEE Computer Society.
The 2008 Computer Entrepreneur Award is presented jointly to Dr. Charles M. Geschke and Dr. John E. Warnock.
Extremely pleased with this award and the opportunity to have served our industry. Thank you very much.
The really cool thing about this award is it's from engineers. We've gotten entrepreneur awards before, but they're from business guys. And getting an award for entrepreneurship from engineers is very, very
He
cool.
also won the 2008 National Medal of Technology and Innovation, awarded by President Barack Obama. On October 15, 2010, the Marconi Society co-awarded Jesky and Warnock the Marconi Prize. When we talk about Adobe, we can with thoughts on Flash. Yeah, Flash was one of the Adobe products till December 2020.
Flash looks like a technology that had its day, but is waning. And HTML5 looks like the technology that's really on the ascendancy right now.
In April 29, 2010, Steve Jobs wrote and published an open letter titled Thoughts on Flash. The letter discusses the reason why Adobe Flash technology would not be permitted on Apple's iOS hardware products, such as iPhone, iPod Touch, and iPad. He mentioned the following reason, due to which Apple does not want to allow Flash on its hardware, like rapid energy consumption, computer crashes, poor performance on mobile devices, abysmal security, lack of touch support, and desire to avoid a third-party layer of software coming between the platform and the developer. Concluding with, Flash is no longer necessary to watch video or consume any kind of web content. It meant to the attention of Adobe CEO Shantanu Narayanan at that time, and eventually Adobe denied it. Shantanu Narayan described the open letter as an extraordinary attack, and during an interview with the Wall Street Journal, called the problem mentioned by Jobs really a smokescreen. He further fired back at Apple, stating that computer crashes were due to Apple's operating system, and that allegations of battery drain were patently
What about
false.
the specific charges? Is Flash the number one reason that Macs crash?
If Flash are the number one reason that Macs crash, which I'm not aware of, it has as much to do with the Apple operating system. So we run on Windows. We have 8 million copies of Flash downloaded a day. We have video on the web run as a result of Flash. We have games on the world run as a result of Flash. And so again, the technology is not the real issue. And so what I'm going to do is continue to remind everybody that we're focused on this vision of delivering content and applications across multiple.
But various publications had different opinions on this topic. And many publications eventually agreed with Jobs. But altogether, by the year 2020, December 31st, Adobe stopped its Flash product from its operation. Today, Adobe has increasingly incorporated AI and machine learning into its products, enhancing features like image recognition in Adobe Sensei. Adobe continues to release regular updates to its suite of creative and marketing software, staying at the forefront of digital innovation. With its tools for graphic design, video editing, web development, and other fields that are extensively utilized by professionals and enthusiasts, Adobe has significantly shaped the landscape of digital media. With that, I'll be signing off for today. So thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next episode. Until then, take care. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing it with your friends. See you soon. Cheers.